Hey guys, Grumpy here with the final episode of Rum Runners. So in the previous episode, we talked about letting our planets grow in size, and then also improving our factions, our standing with certain factions. So if we look at our planets, Nassau just hit size 6. I found I built commerce as its final industry, and I found a holodeck, so I added that to that. Um, Nassau is a very profitable world right now. 45k credits. That's because it has some stability issues. When this thing is running flat out, I think it generates about 120k credits. Of course, I gotta add AI cores and really stretch it to the max so that it produces the most. But I think this is a good enough spot. And then if we go over here to Tortuga's chugging along at 72%. Growing about 2%. It'll take another year, or more than a year actually. It'll take a couple of years in order for it to hit size 6, but I'm pretty comfortable with its trajectory as it is now. I'm going to hand both these planets over to the pirates, and once I do that, I will revert back to the pirate faction. Isamara, I built mining straight away. I'm just going to turn this one over. I'm not going to wait for it to grow all the way up to its largest size. The reason I'm building this one as well is just so that we have even more volatiles available to the pirates. So we'll have 3 sources of volatiles. Um, I'll also build fuel production. We'll also build some fuel production so that we'll have access to fuel producers on uh, 3 planets as well. Oh, maybe not. Thought besides Tortuga we had another planet with fuel production, but I guess not. Okay. Anyway, we'll hand these 3 planets off, and then we'll become proper pirates once again. So in order to do that, you need to go to the worlds. You need to go to the comm directory, talk to the station commander, and then you need to transfer this market to another faction. You can also grant autonomy to this planet, and I'm pretty sure that creates another faction. Anyway, we're gonna transfer it off between Perseans and Tritachyon. We're gonna select the pirates. Yes. So now if we go back to the comm directory, or sorry, if we go back to the planet, you'll see Tortuga is that beautiful red, sports the pirate flag. And then also all of these goods that were being imported previously now are traded within the faction. So as far as exports go, we're securing how many exports can support the pirate factions, essentially. Now maybe we should have held on to it. Oh, well, I don't know if it'll grow to size 6. We can always govern it if we need to. Anyway, let's head over to Nassau, do the same thing. We're going to talk to the station commander and transfer this over to the pirates as well. Yep. Now Nassau I might want to hold on to just because it is very profitable. And it'll stay within pirate control, but I'll have control over the station. So we'll see. And then finally, we want to head over to Ismara and turn this in. And with that, we will go from Rum Runners back to Pirates. It's been a really fun journey. I learned a lot in Nexerelin. There's a lot more that I want to do. Um, Quartermaster, nope. Portmaster, here we go. There's a lot more that I want to do in Nex. Being limited to just the Pirates really, faction limited Rum Runners, really like reduced my gameplay options and fleet compositions, things like that. Um, I didn't really dabble so much in the underground aspects. I know I downloaded Underworld, but I couldn't really see how to pursue the main quest and how to do all that, so I just kind of focused more so on the combat and just building the pirate empire. Speaking of, if we go ahead and look at um, the pirate economy, if we go ahead and look at things like supply, we'll see that as far as consumers go, not very many shortages. Isamara does have some shortages just because it's been recently founded. And Gilead, I think was recently conquered in a raid, so that's why it has shortages there. Same thing, organics, volatiles, any industry basically that you want to look at. I gotta figure out what's going on there. Any good that you look at is pretty much covered across the board, thanks to our intervention, and stability across the board for all the pirate factions should be relatively high since there aren't very many shortages. If we look over here, oh, I wonder if I still have command over Nassau, or if it's just showing up here, it'll tick over and, oh, I have something in storage. Um, yeah, like if we look at a planet like Tartessus, this is a superstar, right? It's producing mass quantities of goods. Um, what every growing pirate boy needs to maintain his fleet. Oh yeah, yeah, we have a lot to yeah, hmm. Well, let's take all the weapons. We'll probably sell just about everything else. Um, hmm. Crew. SMR needs crew. Tortuga and NASA needs crew. Oh, they don't need crew. That's just what they're willing to pay. Alright, we'll sell it on the black market then. Alright, let's check the fleet tab. Yep, let's take all of these. And then sell off the excess crew. Much better. Yeah, look at that. All produced in faction, able to cover even the largest of demand. It's a good job. Alright. We have a raid in heading to Westernese. Okay, that doesn't concern us. We have a remnant raid, which is interesting. We'll go deal with that. But yeah, it's been really fun. Being able to grow the faction and just seeing like fleet sizes grow. Uh, sure, sure, Hedge, for old time's sake. It's been really cool seeing like fleet sizes grow. You know what? Yeah, let's just bring everybody. Seeing those trade lines stabilize between factions, and then also by gaining new faction partners, the Cabal, the Pathers, and then also the Independents, we've been able to improve stability throughout the pirate empire. I've been launching some invasions here and there, trying to secure additional worlds. They've gone okay. What ends up happening is the Hedge ends up sending another fleet. Oh, come on. Hedge ends up sending another fleet to recover the planet. Alright. Let's do it like this. Engage, 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 so that we pull the entire fleet that way. We'll grab you 4. We'll stick you on just the onslaught. And then we'll grab you 4, and we'll put you on the Griffin because it's nearby. I'll deal with this. Good block. We'll deal with this Dominator. One of my favorite tactics is just sneaking behind an enemy ship because the Eradicator is so maneuverable. You can just do something like this. You can lead with a Sabo, so you can disable the Vulcan cannons, and then follow up with the Reapers. In this case, it wasn't necessary. But if you do sneak behind a ship and it's giving you trouble because of point defense, then just do that. Alright, we eliminated the support ships, so we can upgrade these to eliminate orders. Nope. It's the C key, and then we'll grab everyone, just dump them on the onslaught. Grab everyone, dump them on that. Upgrade this to an eliminate order. Put everyone on that. And this should be fine. Same thing, we're going to lead the charge on this onslaught. Let's be careful. You don't want to be near a capital ship when it explodes. Nice. Yeah, that's pretty much all I've been dealing with every time I go into hyperspace. A kill fleet shows up and tries to take me down. And then, obviously, it doesn't really work. Usually it's bad. Usually it's due to bad fleet composition or just the fleet is too small to take on all these Eradicators. We'll let our second in command handle this one. Oh. Oh crap, I hit the wrong button. I meant to consider ship recovery so that we can see if we get this onslaught, but it is what it is. Maybe it'll be in salvage? Nope. I promise I'll come back for those 6 people. Decent sized fleet. Set over to Tartessus. Repair and we'll drop everything off. Alright, so here's the wealth that Captain Jack Sparrow has amassed so far. I'd say Tartessus is the crown jewel, which, speaking of, we need to rename. We need to rename this world. I'll figure out how to do it. If I gotta do it behind the scenes, I'll do that. But here's the planet, size 7 world. Originally belonged to the Luddic Path. I believe we took it from the Hedge or the Perseans very early on, and then just grew from there. Size 7 to 10 producer in pretty much every category. Harvested organs, we have +4. which is very impressive. The only other producers that produce that high is Nomios, and that's because Nomios has a dedicated building in order to produce um, that many harvested organs. So we produce the most in the market besides Nomios. As far as weapons go, here's all the weapons that we've secured through combat, um, of all different kinds, high tech, low tech, um, a lot of medium weapons just from constant battle. And then some fighters, not very many fighters. For as long as the campaign went on, we didn't really get into it too much with the Perseans. They ended up getting cannibalized, honestly, by Syndra and Hedge, so we never had to deal with them. Um, they, the Persians have most of the fighters, so if you're looking for that, if you're doing the salvage campaign, try fighting them. They have uh, they have the Heron, they have the Drover, um, I believe the Condor. No, the Condor might be an independent ship. They have the Gemini might also be an independent ship. But I know they tend to use a lot of fighters in their fleet composition, and they have a very fighter-heavy doctrine. Looking at the character themselves, Jack Sparrow, obviously level 15, earned mostly through combat, very little trade. Here are his stats. I decided to focus on field modulation and missile specialization early. Um, I mean, it makes sense. Jack Sparrow's a pirate. We're going to get into a lot of combat, so it makes sense to build out combat. Normally, I don't really ever spec into combat. It was really fun. Um, I mean, I tend to fight a lot, but it was really fun having a character that was just dedicated to fighting. Um, Going so far as to pick up some combat perks. Um, if I could, I would also pick up. Um, I'd probably pick up helmsmanship. Yes, I do have safety overrides on most of my ships, but just having that little bit more maneuverability, just being able to turn faster, and then also being able to stack on top of the higher top speed that safety overrides provide you, would be really nice. But other than that, I think this is good. These are the basics. Combat endurance to offset safety overrides. Field modulation, just uh, probably one of the best perks in the entire game. Target analysis for bonus damage. Ballistic mastery. Um, I probably don't really need this skill. Doing extra ballistic damage is nice, but the weapon range is irrelevant when you have safety overrides. On a capital ship, though, ballistic mastery is phenomenal. And then I messed around with the elite version a couple times. The elite version is actually really good. Um, I don't know if it's not a placebo effect, but it just seems like when you take ballistic mastery, you get a faster rate of fire, and I don't think it's the case. It just feels that way. Um, Ballistic mastery increases your projectile speed by 33%. The elite version does, and it just feels like on a Mauler, on a Hellbore, you get more rounds. On a Devastator, especially, you like it feels like the Devastator is firing almost twice as fast when you take this skill. It's probably not the case. It just feels that way. So I'd have to do testing to see if it is impacting rate of fire, but definitely it affects projectile speed. Good for catching frigates, like really good. You can slap this on Eradicator that's long range focused and pick up a lot of nice kills if you take the elite version. And then uh, one of the best skills in the game, missile specialization elite. It's it's just great. It doubles your missiles, and it allows you, if you take the elite version, which I highly recommend, it increases your rate of fire and the amount of damage that your missiles do. This is ridiculously powerful when you're dealing with Reapers. Reapers do 4,000 damage. They do 2,000 base damage. So yeah, sorry. Reapers do 4,000 base damage to shields, or sorry, to armor. They do double damage, so they do 8,000 damage. An additional 10% on that is 8,800 damage. Massive, ridiculously massive, and it allows you to fire 50% faster. You've seen through combat just being able to burst down somebody with Reapers is just ridiculously powerful. Reapers still do 2,000 damage to shields, right? Like that's or 2,200 damage with if you take this perk. Like you can't ignore that amount of firepower in a Reaper. So I would strongly recommend this perk, and then I would strongly recommend just Reaper spam on every single ship that you have if you do take something like this. It's also good with sabos, obviously, and just about every other missile benefits from it, but Reapers in conjunction with this really takes the cake. Not a lot of leadership perks, which is interesting because usually I always go with a lot of leadership. So the only thing that we have here is crew training, and it's just required because all of my ships have safety overrides. So I give all the non-piloted ships, so ships without officers, I give them 50% combat readiness. Oh wait, sorry, I'm thinking of uh, support doctrine. Crew training just straight up gives all your ships 15% combat readiness. So combat readiness, I've talked about it in several of my guides, in several other videos. It's just great. It increases combat readiness, increases speed of maneuverability, damage dealt, less damage taken, and your accuracy. And then it also obviously reduces your malfunction risk. And it's just a timer. So you have peak performance time, which you'll eat through eventually, and then after that you start eating through combat readiness. So the higher your combat readiness starts, the more time you get in combat. It's not much time, but every second matters. Sometimes it's the difference between ending a fight with, let's say, 15% CR and being at 0%, and you're just literally a floating hockey puck. Um, yeah. So yeah, normally I go down green line. In this case, I had to go down red, so I sacrificed green. Same thing with technology. Usually I go all the way up to flux regulation. Very powerful perk here. Unfortunately, I had to forego it. Um, we'll get into industry in a second. I had to forego it, but usually that's where I go up to. And then navigation is what I kept. Navigation is just too strong. It adds one burn level to your base, and then when you hit burn drive, then it doubles it, so you get +2. So really good there. And then finally, yellow. This is probably the most industry I've ever taken in a campaign. But you just need it. You well, you don't really need bulk transportation, but salvaging and field repairs just invaluable. Just being able to generate more resources from combat, and then also um, start my ships, or my ships won't be as beat up after every single round of combat. Just really good there. Ordnance expertise, really, that's a combat perk. It's just hidden in the industry line. I don't know why it's there, but a really good skill. Containment procedures and makeshift equipment, really nice. Of the two, you probably just need makeshift equipment, so you reduce the amount of supplies that you spend. Containment procedures isn't really necessary because uh, fuel fuel is very easy to come by. Um, it's it's difficult in the early game because you'll buy it all the time and it'll waste all of your credits. But you'll get to a point. Slight spoiler. Well, I guess major spoiler. After you activate the gates at the end of the game, then fuel no longer becomes an issue because you can just teleport all around. Um, you can just use the gates to teleport all around the map, so fuel doesn't become a concern anymore. Because the only time you would use fuel is when you're hopping from one planet to like a star. Like you would just use the gate to get close by, and then use your fuel to get to a star that doesn't have a gate in it. So that's not really an issue there. And then finally, hull restoration and derelict operations. These are really good together. The hull restoration, they kind of work in opposites though. We'll start with derelict operations. Derelict operations um, allowed me to deploy more ships to combat. First of all, low-tech ships have really low deployment costs, and then stacking this on top of it with all the D-mods that the ships had that I recovered from combat, just made it easier to deploy them. So I was able to mass more ships on the battlefield, usually um, deploying more than my opponent could. And then hull restoration. This one removes the D-mods from my ships, and also increases the combat readiness of those ships based on how many S-mods were built into the ship. Uh, I don't really need this one. Really, hull restoration, the reason I picked it was just to get rid of all the degraded drive fields on all my freighters. The only D mod that really affects you in combat is, or are the D mods that affect your shields. Where's it at? Where is it at? This one actually, sorry, unreliable subsystems, which increases or decreases your peak performance time, and then the one that affects your shields, I might not have it. Degraded shields. Those are the only two that matter. So the rest of them in combat, the ones that affect like your engines, your weapon range, your hull, your armor, things like that, those don't really matter so much. Um, yeah, not really necessary. Honestly, I could spec out of this and clean up my industry and get more leadership perks, but it is what it is. Moving on from there, let's look at our fleet. So, a lot of trophies. Not very many ships. The main part of the fleet, as you saw, was the Eradicators. Just, just phenomenal ships. And I think going forward, whenever I can, I'm going to incorporate these into the fleet. Here's the build. It's built in expanded missile racks, 3 Reapers, 2 Sabos, and then uses the light dual machine guns and heavy machine guns because they're so cheap. 0.38 flux to damage, 0.12 flux to damage, and because we save so much on our kinetic damage, we're able to run 2 assault chain guns, which are normally very flux hungry. In this case, we don't really care because uh, we have plenty of flux to spare. We have enough flux dissipation, in fact, to cover our shield flux plus our weapon flux, and then some. Um, the officer building on top of the expanded missile racks should have missile specialization. That's the only thing that's required. And then other recommends would be target analysis, ballistic mastery, ordnance expertise. All those are really good perks. And yeah, I mean, this ship is just a beast. The other variant of this ship, if I have it, I don't, is what I call the range version. Same thing. You don't have to build an expanded missile Rex for this one, but it uses 2 heavy maulers and a hypervelocity driver, as well as integrated target unit and ballistic rangefinder to control the battlefields. For this officer, I would definitely recommend ballistic mastery, gunnery implants, um, elite field modulation if you want, ordnance expertise again if you want, but definitely at the very least gunnery implants and ballistic mastery. Moving on. Here's the fleet. So a lot of trophies won from primarily the hedge. I think one of these came from the Perseans, and then obviously some of them came from kill fleets. Not really impressed by the onslaught. I mean, not impressed by the onslaught. Just it became really hard to gear the onslaught. As you see, like I'm struggling to find large capital weapon or large ballistic weapons for it. And then on top of that, um, The Onslaught's just really good at being a big floating piece of armor, essentially. Um, it's a great capital ship in that it requires a lot of resources to get rid of it. So it does control the battlefield in that way, but it itself doesn't really do um, too much damage effectively. What I mean by that is like a Dominator is forward facing. So if I grab a Dominator, Dominator is forward facing. So all of the firepower from the Dominator just goes straight forward. Whatever's in front of the Dominator just gets eliminated. The Onslaught's not really like that. The Onslaught has thermal pulse cannons which shoot forward, and then it has a large ballistic, and then these two mediums I would say, and this medium as well, that all fire forward. And then the rest of it is all, if you look closely, is for the sides of the Onslaught. So yes, it does have three large ballistics, but realistically, you're only going to use like one or two at a time. Um, but like I said, it's good at just taking up space on the battlefield, and the AI, the enemy needs to deal with it, or you as the player need to deal with it, and they're really, really tough to deal with. So by including these in the fleet, we were able to take on some tougher battle stations and win some invasion fights that we probably shouldn't have won. Um, the Moras are just nice to have. The Dominators didn't really change much. The Eradicators on their own were already good enough. Um, all reliable here. Uh, I wish I had more Falcon Ps. I didn't really go out of my way to find a lot of pirate ships. I kind of gave up the search and just let the AI just come to me and drop off whatever ships they felt necessary to add to my collection. It just it became a hassle to find nice ships. Like I checked Umbra, I checked Quarus, I checked Captain Starworks. Like I checked all the military bases, and I still didn't really find any ships. I'm sure now if I go and check them, they'll be there just because the pirates are in a much better space. They can actually, they have actual pirate hulls, or they have actual ship hulls being produced now, so we can probably find a better quality of ship. And then the Colossus, they're okay carriers. Like they're not good. But if you want a cheap way to bring in two fighters into the fight, then I guess you could do that. And then as far as frigates go, I had a lot of frigates throughout the campaign. But the problem is pirate frigates are very weak. Very easy to kill, and it's very easy to lose a lot of them. I don't know how many pirate wolves and pirate strikes I've went through, but yeah, that's the fleets. Our income, we're making 220 credits a month right now, plus our commission. We make about 300k credits. And then as far as faction standings go, we're neutral with the Cabal. I figured out you just have to talk to them. They'll approach you, they'll ask for money, they'll ask for ships, they'll ask for equipment on your ships, whatever. If you just keep hitting yes to those, eventually you'll build up reputation. And then I think you can buy in to their black market, and then trades that you make will increase your reputation further. The Pathers like us, Tritachion's neutral with us. I'm gonna save this save file and push it forward just to see what happens between us, like Syndria, Tritachion, and the Hedge being in that core group if they ever decide to attack the pirates. What they decide to do. But for right now, we're neutral with them. And then finally, the independents are welcoming of us. Of these, the independents being on board with us is probably the most important. Just in any game, you really don't want to make the independents angry because a lot of the fleets in the game are independent fleets. So by being hostile with the independents, you're basically asking for hard mode. You will be attacked at every opportunity. And yeah, I think that's it. We didn't find a lot in the way of blueprints. We didn't do a lot of exploration. That we did find, we turned over to other planet, or we turned over to the pirates so they can build it. I never saw any high-tech pirate fleets, which is kind of disappointing. I really wanted to see like a Paragon pirate fleet, but it is what it is. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the series. It was a ton of fun to do. The save file I'll drop in on the Discord so you can pick it up. Give it a try, play it as far as you want, and then see what happens in your campaigns. Um, yeah, but other than that, Captain Jack Sparrow and Grumpy out. And now I'd like to give a very special thank you to our supporters at the Explorer tier, Randall Porter, Philip Kallenbach, and Mark. And at the Starfarer tier, Zoni, Wet Noodle, Kriltic, and our newest supporter, Wayfarer S tier. If you would like to support the channel, then becoming a member would be the best way to do so, but it is completely optional. I'll continue to run ad-free content on this channel, but if you do choose to support, it would mean a lot to me. Thank you so much. Other than that, Grumpy out.